And let's move on to agenda item letter A, gang reduction intervention prevention program.
Thank you. I wanted to, this is a meeting I think you've all been looking forward to wanting to schedule, and fortunately we've had all the stars align. Unfortunately they happened to align on All-Star the same night as the All-Star game, so I apologize to those of you that are pulled away from that. But that's what's stated, that's what DVRs are for. I do want to recognize I had done some outreach to folks in the community, and I think we've got a very good turnout this evening. I wanted to especially invited the folks that had participated in the Lodi News Sentinel's Confronting Gang series. Mr. Paul Bonnell and Eddie Cotton from the Boys and Girls Club, Jake McGregor from the 180 Teen Center, and he and his wife are here. Anyone from St. Anne's? St. Anne's. Mayor Mounts is here this evening, thank you very much. And of course Ralph Womack, who is on the Lodi Unified School District Board and also manages the Operation Peacekeeper program for the city of Stockton. I also want to recognize I contacted the San Joaquin County Probation Department. They play a very active role in the enforcement and the realm of gangs in this community. So we do have Mr. Roberto Hernandez here this evening as well as representatives from Point Break, another organization. Thank you very much. Anyone that I've missed? Thank you again for coming out this evening. Our police chief, Mark Helms, has put together a brief PowerPoint. I'll go ahead and turn that over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Good evening. Mark Helms, Chief of Police. What I'd like to do tonight is take you through a condensed version of the presentation that I gave to City Council back in March. Talk a little bit about the gang issues that we're facing here in Lodi, as well as an update to that presentation, which includes kind of a summary of a grant opportunity that we've been awarded by the state of California. For a brief recap, looking at the year 2011, we had 253 gang-related crimes reported here in Lodi. That was up 25% from the prior year in 2010, when we had 202 gang-related crimes. As you can see by the map, most of those are in the east area of town, but those crimes are not exclusive to the east area of town. They have actually occurred in many places within the city limits. One of the most prolific things that caught our attention as we started looking at these numbers was that 11% of those crimes actually occurred on the campuses of our middle schools and high schools here in town. As we looked a little bit further, we wanted to look and see how often or how frequently guns are being used. 2011, 21 of those crimes involved guns, which was up substantially from 12 of those incidents in 2010. Pretty much exclusive to the east side. And we looked a little bit closer at gang-related homicides. Actually, 2010 we had none, 2011 2, and year-to-date 2012 we've had 2. I'm pleased to report that there have been no additional homicides since I presented to the City Council back in March. Actually, those 4 homicides, which occurred since August of last year, account for all of our homicides in Lodi. All 4 homicides we've had since the middle of last year have been gang-related. There are 5 red stars on the map. One of those is categorized as an attempted homicide. That's the one on the farthest, the lower part of the screen. The software doesn't allow us to take that off of the screen for some reason. Other thing I'd like to mention is all 4 of those homicides involved juveniles or young adults and firearms. The means in every one of those homicides was a firearm. I came here in August of last year, lot of the gang activity was kind of peaking, and some of the traditional enforcement methods that the police department was using over the summer months really weren't being as effective as they had been in the past. So we started getting together and talking about it, and in the process of developing what would become, we believe, an effective gang strategy. And you know, we can learn a lot from other communities and other areas that have dealt with gang issues. They're a lot worse than what we face here. And some of the things that we know are effective points of a gang strategy include some of the things I have listed on the screen here. First is realizing that it's a community problem. It isn't just an issue with gangsters. It isn't just an issue regarding a certain portion of town. It's a problem that affects the entire community. We can't arrest our way out of it. We can put people in jail all day, every day. Eventually they're going to come out. Oftentimes when they come out, they're worse than when they went in. While arresting people and prosecuting them is an important component of it, it's not everything. We also know that communities that have been most effective with gang reduction use more of a holistic approach or a comprehensive approach that includes suppression and enforcement, intervention and prevention. And we'll get into some more of that soon. The other thing we wanted to look at, we want to try to stay with what's evidence-based. We want to look at programs, we want to look at tools that are proven to work. And then we also want to recognize that we've got a lot of resources available to us. It isn't just the police department, it isn't just law enforcement, not just the DA's office, probation, parole, it's the entire community. Our goals are pretty simple. We want to reduce gang violence in Lodi, we want to encourage gang members to leave the gang, and we want to discourage other people from joining gangs. How are we going to do that? We're going to work to dismantle, disrupt, and displace street gangs. We'll use a variety of enforcement, intervention, and prevention methods. And once again, we'll focus on best practices and evidence-based methods. I asked the staff, the police staff, to deliver a clear message when they encounter gang members on the streets, regardless of where they are. They've got three choices. It's a very simple message. They can either leave the gang lifestyle. If they choose that, our philosophy is that we'll do whatever it takes to help them succeed in that. They need an education, a driver's license, a job, something like that. We will do what we can to get those resources to them or get them to those resources. The resources are there for them. We just need to steer them there. If they don't choose option number one, they can choose option number two. Leave town. You're not welcome here. If they don't choose one or two, we'll do everything in our power, using every resource available at our disposal to put them in prison. It's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward, and that's the message that we deliver. As we developed our gang strategy, we wanted to make sure that it's a departmental focus. It's one of the most important focuses that the police department has right now. We moved some people around, we assigned some additional people to our gang unit, our special investigations unit. Both of those new officers that we assigned there are Spanish speakers, which has made a dramatic difference in our effectiveness in the community. We're doing more from the patrol car perspective. We're doing a lot more to analyze our crime, taking a look at what's really happening, looking at the data and figuring out who it is that's causing the problems, because that's where we want to devote our attention. And then once again, reaching out to the community, engaging the community, and I'll get into some more of that soon. Outside or allied agencies, we have a number of resources at our disposal. Some of them are here tonight with probation, parole, the district attorney's office. We have a lot of resources available to us in our own county and beyond that are willing to come and help us, and I want to make sure that we access that as much as we can. We want our approach to be surgical. Instead of just throwing a bunch of cops into a neighborhood and focusing on zero tolerance and everybody gets a ticket, everybody goes to jail, we really want to focus our efforts on the people that are causing the problems. Who are the people that are causing the crime? Who are the people with the guns? Who are the people with the drugs? Who are the gangsters that are causing the problems and driving the crime? That's where we're focusing our efforts. We'll soon be looking at gang injunctions. We are going to expand our code enforcement operations because we know that there are certain properties that are inhabited by gang members, and code enforcement is a very effective tool in dealing with that. Before I get too far into that, I did get some criticism last time I brought that up. I do want to specify that so far we have had very, very strong cooperation with the property owners in Lodi. I'm very pleased to report that we've had a number of property owners who have gone above and beyond to work with us to deal with some of the tenants that they've had in their properties. Lodi area Crime Stoppers, trying to get the word out there for people to call in tips so that they can tell us who's committing crimes so we can go arrest them. And then we also want to take advantage of a new opportunity in the county to join in on a regional gang task force that's being formed by the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office and the Stockton Police Department. Then it takes us up to our next steps. These are all things we implemented late last year and earlier this year. As it is right now with our financial crisis and our shortage of funds and our shortage of revenue, our shortage of resources, we're always looking for grant opportunities. And probably the most effective or the most desirable grant that's available in today's world to affect gang crime is the CalGRIP grant, which stands for California Gang Reduction, Intervention, and Prevention Program. This is administered through the California Emergency Management Agency. This year there were $8.2 million available statewide in state restitution funds. So this is a grant that's actually funded by criminals when they pay the restitution fees. The maximum award that any agency or any city could apply for is $250,000 over the 2-year term. The condition of the application is that 20% of the awarded amount has to go to community-based organizations as a pass-through. It's a very competitive process, and if you do the math, there's only about 33 grant opportunities available at $250,000 throughout the entire state. There's also a match required. The city has an obligation to come up with either a cash or an in-kind match for that award amount. And what they really impress at the state level, and for good reason, is that your grant proposals have got to be collaborative. They can't just be enforcement related. They've got to include all the different components, and they're looking for things, once again, that are evidence-based. We applied for the grant. We built our grant application based on what we felt were our most immediate needs. We applied for $150,000 for additional enforcement. That's basically to create a part-time specialized enforcement team to impact gang issues. $50,000 so we could do additional code enforcement activities, and then $50,000 with our community-based organizations who would partner with us to provide services that we need for a total of $250,000. One of the reasons I think we were successful in getting this grant was that we offered that the city would provide an $85,000 cash match to employ 2 part-time youth outreach workers. And then the rest of our match would come up with in-kind services. Basically the work that we're already doing for gang enforcement, they give us credit for it. The goals in our application were to reduce gang violence 25%, remove 20 guns from the streets, dismantle the leadership of 2 gangs, and see an improvement in student grade point averages. We submitted our application January 12th of this year. We received our award letter May 7th, and City Council accepted and approved the grant last month on June 6th. Another requirement of the grant is to create a coordinating and advisory council. This is not a regulatory committee. This is kind of an opportunity for all of us, all the stakeholders, to get together and problem solve and share information. And we have put together a framework of our stakeholders that would be involved in this advisory council, and this is essentially what we submitted to the state in the grant application. As you can see, it's a pretty good cross-section of representatives from the community. I want to stress that it's an opportunity for us to share information. The coordinating and advisory council is not a governing body by any means or an oversight body. It's merely a group where we can get together, share information, and talk about what's happening with the grant. Again, 3 components to the grant: suppression, intervention, and prevention. I've already covered a lot of what's in the suppression side. We're going to continue what we've been doing over the last year, except we're going to expand it. We're going to do more of it more frequently, and our intent is to kind of change up our tactics, do some more stuff on the off hours, on the weekends, when our target audience is not expecting it. We want to do everything, once again, we can to dismantle, displace, and disrupt these folks. On the intervention side, this is what the grant really offers to the community that we didn't have in place before. It's the Youth Outreach Worker Program. And this is something that Mr. Wood is going to be involved with. He'll be the program manager for this unit. He's in the process of developing the program right now. It will very much mirror Stockton's Operation Peacekeeper, which is an evidence-based program based off of another very successful program that started in Boston years ago. I'm pleased that Mr. Womack is here tonight. He's been a phenomenal resource for us, and with the proximity of Stockton and Lodi together, the overlap with the school districts, it only makes sense that we do something that very much mirrors what's happening in the community next door to us. We'll tailor it to our needs, we'll tailor it to adjust the needs of our community as we need to, but it was just a perfect fit in our proposal. Youth outreach workers, the recruitment is underway. We're looking for a couple of good candidates to fill that role. Mr. Wood is overseeing that. Those youth outreach workers will be working very closely with parents, our school resource officers, schools, probation, community organizations, and so forth, to figure out, on an intervention standpoint, kids that are already involved in gangs, what can we do to try and get them out? What's going on in their lives? What's going on in their families, in their households? And then getting those kids to the right place. We really want to focus on the middle school age. Our program goes basically from 12 to 17. We want to exclude people from other ages, but where we believe the greatest gap is at the middle school age. In my next slide, I'll talk a little bit about prevention, and I'll talk about what our SROs are doing in the schools. We teach the gang resistance an education program, the GREAT program, in 6th grade in several schools. After that, we currently have nothing in place for kids. And we strongly believe that it's those middle school years, after they've had the GREAT program in 6th grade, which has been very effective for us. It's those middle school years where we think we're losing a lot of them, and by the time they get to high school, they've made their choice. So we really want to intervene with that middle school age bracket. Forums and call-ins. This is something that's quite interesting. It's used throughout the country in a number of places. Essentially, people that are involved in the system, kids that are involved in the system right now, are on probation, are compelled to show up for a meeting with us. As a requirement of their probation, they're compelled to show up for a meeting with us, and they're greeted by the police department, the district attorney, the probation department, parole, the United States attorney, and they tell these kids what's going to happen to them if they keep making the wrong choices. They tell these kids what it's going to be like going to federal prison. There's typically a family member of somebody who's been the victim of gang violence, and they share their story and the effect that gang violence, that incident has had on the family. You know, the idea is a carrot and stick approach. You know, we'll try to dangle the carrot in front of them, hope they take it, give them the opportunity to make some changes, make some choices in their life that are going to make their lives better and get them away from the gang. But we're also ready with the stick in case we need it. And that's where the enforcement side and the prosecution side comes in. We've obligated on our grant that we'll do 4 of those over the course of the grant. Prevention side, this is the idea of keeping the kids out of it. Once again, the youth outreach workers will be very much involved. They will complement our current SRO program. I've already covered what the GREAT program is. Once again, focused on that age group 12 to 17, and once again, partnering with the community-based organizations. I'm pleased to say that that's about the end of the presentation. I do have a couple of things I want to, a couple acknowledgements I want to make. There are a number of people in the police department that worked very hard to put this grant proposal together. A lot of work went into this. So a number of my staff that I just want to mention real quick. Sergeant Bill Alexander, Sergeant Dale Miller, Lieutenant Chris Piombo were very much involved with the grant application. Jeff Hood is our interim Parks and Recreation Director, was actually the author of our grant, and he did a phenomenal job. The staff of the Lodi Police Department has been amazing in the work that they've done so far to suppress gang violence. They have really stepped up to the plate and done a phenomenal job, and I'm anxious to get to the point where I can actually report on the progress that we've made, because I know it's going to be positive. We've also had great support from the City Manager's Office and the City Council, and I want to thank everybody involved with that. And then once again, finally, Ralph Womack for coming out and supporting us again tonight, all of our community partners that are here, and then Joseph Wood has been phenomenal as he's transitioned to take over this outreach component. I'm really excited about what's going on. I think this is good for the community, and as we unveil this in the coming months, I think it's going to be a very positive step forward. That concludes my presentation. I'm pleased to take any of your questions.
Open it up for questions. Bob?
Chief, thank you for joining us this afternoon or this evening. And one of the purposes of the Lodi Improvement Committee is to showcase not only issues that are confronting the people of Lodi, but people. And we know that you, Chief, are relatively new to this city, but that you're from this area generally, and that you're very familiar with the gang problems. Of the $250,000 that was requested in the grant, I believe that about $200,000 of it goes to police-related work. Does this mean that, my question is, does this mean that you feel that the police department is integral to solving the problems of gangs in Lodi?
Well, of course I think the police department is integral, but it's not the only stakeholder involved. Once again, as we put the application together, we really did put a lot of thought into this, and we put together a plan that we believe was going to satisfy our greatest immediate needs. And clearly, from a policing perspective in a department that's short for resources like many police departments in the area are, enforcement is our top need at the moment.
It goes to the question for me as to whether we attack the problem of gangs or the roots in which gangs are started or become a problem. And it seems to me at least that we don't have the funds available because of the economy and otherwise to attack the problems that relate to gangs or that are formative of gangs, but we seem to be putting all of our money into things like the police department, which would be attacking the gangs as they exist in its present form. Is that correct?
Well, I think obviously proportionally we are putting more money into enforcement. However, the city's come up with an $85,000 cash match to do youth outreach, as well as other work. So, again, I think based off of what our need is, if our need wasn't enforcement, if our need was if we had a greater need for intervention and prevention, and we do have a need for that, we would have dedicated more of our grant application to that area. But by far, part of the reason that we haven't, that we have seen increases in crime over the last couple of years as far as gang-related crime goes, is because we haven't had the resources that we've needed to deal with it as effectively as we've needed. needed to. So proportionally speaking, yeah, obviously a greater fund, or a greater share of the grant dollars have gone to enforcement. But that, and I absolutely stand by that decision, that that's exactly where our greatest need is at this time. In the event that we're able to apply for this grant in the future, if that need changes, then we'll certainly focus our efforts on where we need to place additional funding.
But you, at this time, you feel that the need is in enforcement?
That's one of the needs, absolutely.
Is that the greatest need, do you think?
Yes.
If I could add to that, you look at the $50,000 that is allocated for the community-based organizations that will be assisting with this effort.
Right.
Add that with the $85,000 that the city is committing to for the youth outreach. You've got a $135,000 commitment there towards the other aspects of the
Almost matches the
of this
contribution
issue. So it's really not either or. It's all of these approaches as far as the enforcement, the prevention, and intervention. They're all being pursued actively.
Another point I'll make is that just financially speaking, the enforcement side is the most expensive side. You're talking sworn police officers, they cost more. They cost more person for person, hour for hour than the other services that will be built into the grant or into the entire program, not just the grant. So again, it's holistic, it's comprehensive. It's not just enforcement. It includes a little bit of everything. Is it perfect? No, of course not. But I think it's a heck of a start, and it's a lot more than what we've been doing.
Thank you, Chief.
I have a few questions myself. It's because the grant's for 2 years. So are we able to reapply for it in 2 years, or
if it's
are there
available?
kind of limitations on
if
that?
it's available. It's not always available.
Okay. So these, if we bring on, like you said, we brought in a few more officers for this, like the Spanish-speaking officers. In 2 years, would we possibly be looking at having let more officers go if we're unable to get them?
We didn't, let me make a point of clarification. We didn't bring on any additional officers.
Okay.
What we did is we reallocated them from other assignments into
Okay.
the gang unit. So as we moved them, and we're a department of 70 sworn officers. If you move 2 people from one place to another, it makes a difference. So we reallocated our staffing. We're not asking, we wouldn't have the grant isn't large enough, the award amount isn't large enough for us to be able to make an actual increase in our staffing allocation. We would need a lot more money than that. But certainly if the grant is available, it would come up in, probably come up in a little over a year for the following application. And if we're successful with this, if it makes sense to apply for a grant, for that grant at that time, we would certainly entertain that. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to apply for a grant because of the restrictions or because of the funding amount and so forth. It just depends. So if it's available, if it makes sense for us to apply for it, absolutely we would apply for it.
Also, how much do you think that drugs are playing a part in all this gang violence?
I think it's substantial.
Anybody else? Any questions? Questions for the audience?
Any comments from the audience?
Here we go, sorry. Same answer.
Wow.
So, one more from me. As far as you spoke about the San Joaquin County like, Regional Gang Task Force, what all does that entail?
For us, it would be part-time membership of a full-time task force. I don't have the exact numbers handy, but the San Joaquin Sheriff's Office and the Stockton Police Department have both dedicated full-time resources to a gang task force that's in the it's very close to starting up if it hasn't started already. There are opportunities for the smaller cities, Lodi, Manteca, Tracy, to participate in a part-time basis. Frankly, we'd be foolish if we didn't take advantage of that opportunity because we're able to draw resources here, and gang crime, just like any crime, isn't exclusive to city limits, crosses over. Our crooks are their crooks and vice versa. So we certainly would want to participate in that task force if it's, as it becomes available to us.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Step up to the mic.
I'm just here as a citizen, wondering what the opportunities might be for me and some other people I know that want to get involved, and how will we become aware of those opportunities?
Get a lot of that question. As we move forward with putting the advisory committee together, as I kind of indicated, the roster of that has been pretty much determined. But those will be meetings that are open to the public, and we certainly allow public comment at that meeting. Once again, it's an opportunity for us to exchange information, share ideas, and so forth. You know, it really just depends on what particular aspect you'd like to contribute. I don't know where you live. If you live in an area that's problematic, community involvement is very important to us. Having neighbors that are willing to pick up the phone and call when there's activity going on or when a crime's occurred or a crime's been committed. So, you know, I would encourage you as a first step to attend the council meetings or the committee meetings as we get them scheduled and participate in that.
You know, if I could add to that, the approach for this grant was as Chief Holmes has stated, was a very collaborative approach, and we're very fortunate that Lodi is a very collaborative environment. Not only the community-based organizations, but just the general public, the other faith-based organizations that are here, and the service groups that are here, that at the drop of a hat will come forward to fill a need. Lodi is very rich on that issue. So I think as we put this program together and as we continue to work through a number of issues and putting the youth outreach program out there, having the youth work with families, I think there'll be plenty of opportunities for a number of those other agencies, not only the community-based organizations that are looking to step up to assist with services to families, just overall support from the community to you know, taking back those neighborhoods, community events in the neighborhoods. Mayor Mouse is well aware of. She was one of the integral people behind taking back Hale Park years ago, decades ago, or a decade ago. And what's interesting is you know, having had the opportunity to get some feedback and participate in various meetings through the years. Several years back, one of the Jose Gomez, who works for Operation Peacekeepers, he had a young boy with a young man. I think at the time was, again, junior high age. He at that point played a very important part in Lodi gangs. Jose was taking him about, letting him see that there's other opportunities, and in this case, hopefully show him that there's other opportunities for him to direct his leadership abilities. One of the things that he said to the folks at this meeting was, you know, if you don't want us in your park, just have events there. We'll find someplace else. So I think it's a matter of, and I know recently at the Lodi Improvement Committee's kind of planning session or goal setting session, we had some folks from the community that are already planning on doing events at Hale Park. Because again, it's one of those things where create an environment where the families are safe to attend, and that element, along with the enforcement, we're making it clear and sending the message that you're not welcome here in this community, you're not welcome in this park, you're not welcome here. It's a matter of chasing them, and rather than chasing them from one park to the next, is having the community come forward and taking control or repossessing your neighborhoods. Having the National Night Out again, the network here and the foundation in Lodi is fantastic for this. It's been recognized through the years for being outstanding for National Night Out participation. So it's all of these little elements that provide the opportunity for the community to step forward and really do some of the little things that make a big difference in making this an environment where the people can take their neighborhoods back and can definitely demonstrate that this is not a neighborhood that supports or will tolerate the gang type of activities. So that's, I think, how you can look at the citizens can look at participating.
Yeah, Joseph, I have one idea, I don't know if it works or not, but do we have any hotline for the gang purpose that somebody neighborhood can find out that this guy's doing any activities? They can call directly to the police department and inform them and then keep them, you know.
Yes, we do, but I can't tell you what the number is. We do have a hotline, and I can certainly make that available.
That helps because
Yeah.
I think the neighborhood where this activity is going on, if they have the police department to find out what's going on, because you can't have one-to-one policeman for one citizen, it's impossible. But if the neighborhood just watch what's going on and immediately let you know, then you could have some policeman goes around and check it out, what's going on and not. But that would be the great, have like a neighborhood watch out or those kind of things, you know. And particularly you're talking about the area involved. And let the people know about it, that the guy's number is available, and then just pass it on.
Yeah, we do have a hotline, and actually I'm glad you brought that up because quite frankly it's something that we haven't taken advantage of enough. We should use it more.
Thank you.
How does that hotline work? Do you just call and leave a message, or do you actually?
It's a voicemail. It's essentially it's a to report drugs or gangs, and it's a voicemail. It goes into the Special Investigations Unit.
Yeah, I mean.
Of course, there's always 911 if
Yeah.
there's a crime or something like that. There's also the non-emergency number for the police department too, but it's a voicemail and it goes to the right people who are able to take tips and then act on them.
Well,
I have a question for you, Chief, but before I do, Joseph, I wonder if you can explain to us here, for the benefit of the audience, we on the Lodi Improvement Committee Board get a sheet of, or sheets of documents, and one of them is handwritten. Joseph, is that part of the group of people that you approached for this meeting, or is it the handwritten sheet a group of the conglomeration that both you and the chief referred to in terms of the grant?
Actually, no, that what you're referring to is part of the minutes from the goal setting session.
Oh, I see.
It was the Rainbow Project, David Nielsen and Oscar Origel that had provided that. That's their list of organizations or agencies that they're looking at bringing involved in their efforts.
I noticed that there were a lot of clergy people involved in that. Is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah. In any event, I have one question before we go on with the questions from the audience. And I put this in the category, Chief, of not in my own backyard or something like that, that is so prevalent in other organizations. And for your information, this group has featured gangs and what we're going to do about gangs in a prior session, and this is our second session, and it's an opportunity to meet with you, Chief, to hear your views that you expressed to the City Council already. But one of the concerns that was expressed at the first meeting was that if we decide to get gangs out of Lodi, that it would affect the surrounding area. And so that raises a question, for me at least, whether we go after gangs or whether we go after the roots of gangs. And you seem to think that enforcement is one of the key things that is important for the police department to stay involved and get involved with the money that's available for all of us to use. And I think that that is a very legitimate position to take, especially if you're the chief of police. And but I wonder if you would mind commenting on the leaving Lodi thing that you had on your presentation.
It's part of the message, which is get out of the gang life. If you want to do that, we'll do whatever we can to help you be successful. If you don't want to do it, leave town because you're not welcome here. If you hang around, and we've identified you as a criminal who is involved in gang crime, we're going to do whatever we can. We're going to use all of our resources to put you in prison. It's not a message that I made up myself. You know, I take things from other places and incorporate them here. It's a message that's delivered in other communities, and you know, I need something to give the police officers, whether they're in patrol or in the gang unit. They need a message to deliver these people that are driving crime, and that's the message I want them to deliver. So, yeah, they're not welcome here if they're going to continue in the gang lifestyle. It's that simple.
Thank you.
Mr. Cheney?
Yeah, Doug Cheney. I did have a comment I wanted to make, and that concerns Hale Park. I'm one of the board members of a Hand Up here in Lodi. We're a homeless advocacy group, not-for-profit. And I was, maybe 2.5 years ago, we had a series of alley cleanups when we first got organized. And this particular Saturday, we cleaned up some alleys on the east side, and the last alley we cleaned up was the alley that was coming right into Hale Park. So we planned on having a little, like a picnic lunch. The homeless people were helping us participate in the cleanup also, and plus, you know, whoever else wanted to attend. And Virginia Snyder went over there a little bit early and started setting up, and a couple of gentlemen came over to her and approached her and said that she couldn't use the picnic area because they'd already had it reserved, a couple of young guys. So they told Virginia, asked them that about she didn't think that area was available for reservation, a little area by the bathrooms, by the barbecues. So they told Virginia that for $20 they would go home and make some phone calls and cancel their little party. And I noticed from that day on, I go by Hale Park quite a bit because I work with the community center and Lowell Center. I don't see hardly anyone there at Hale Park during the day. Families, children, women. Is this some kind of a scam that's going on there, or what? Why don't we see people at Hale Park? It's literally vacant all day long.
I don't know.
Running a little game there, or what?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, I would like to bring that to your attention. It still continues. It's bothersome to me.
I know they recently started some handballs.
Drive by there and look any time of the day.
Hopefully they're at school and work.
I won't go there.
Hope you will entertain me for just a moment, Mr. Chair and members of the Lodi Improvement Committee. I'm honored that you are bringing this topic up tonight, and that you've reached out to all these fine folks that are in the audience, because, you know, truly it's going to take a community to tackle this issue. Mr. Wood was so kind to me earlier when he said a decade ago, you know, I found a newspaper article that talked about my efforts on the East Side Improvement Committee prior to being called Lodi Committee. I was 33 years old, and that was 1993. So yeah, it's been almost a couple decades, and you know, I used to live with the concept of the biggest, baddest gang in Lodi was a group of committed citizens. And I truly stand by that. And I think that it is just stellar, and I truly want to thank the chief and everyone involved in getting this grant and moving this concept forward, because it's going to take the peacekeepers and the Boys and Girls Club and the volunteers and the 180 Teen Club, and it's going to take the churches. Thank you, Pastor, for being here. And it's going to take code enforcement to help combat all areas of it, just to save a few lives, to keep them from jumping in. And it's funny, you know, when we used to do the concerts in the park, at Hale Park all the time, we'd always get a group of kids, and I try to keep track of them and find out which ones jumped in and which ones we saved. And you know, I saw a lot that jumped in and saw them when they got out of prison, and eventually they would change their life, but only 2 of them that I'm aware of. And the other day, I had a young man come up to me while I was working at a downtown business, and he was one of those young kids from the park, and he told me that he'd been working at Habanero Hots all these years, and he was just now saving enough money to go to culinary school in San Francisco, and that he remembered the things he learned at the park. So I think that it's possible to save some lives. It's possible to make some changes in these kids' life, and I'm so glad that we're taking an all-assault, so to speak, approach to this, because it's going to take everyone. And I want to thank you for talking about it tonight.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
I do have one thing to throw out there. You know, one of the things we're in the process of doing right now, we have our open recruitment for these youth outreach positions. So those of you who may know anyone who's working in that field, or either through volunteer work or has some connection to the community and is willing to look at getting involved in that, we've got Ruben with Point Break that is already doing work over at Lodi High. There are a number of folks in this community that have been in that lifestyle that have come out of it, and I think there's a number of folks that are of that nature that would be interested in getting involved in this and would be good to work with our program. So if any of you know them, know of folks that would fit that, please point them in our direction. We're doing this open recruitment. The folks from several of the gentlemen from Peacekeepers that I had spoken with said that there's a buzz about what Lodi is doing, and that there's some great interest in folks wanting to come here and help work with this program. So whatever you can do to help direct folks our way would be greatly appreciated.
If I can add one more. I want to put out the number for Lodi Area Crime Stoppers. People can either call Crime Stoppers or the gang hotline. I don't have that gang hotline number handy, but the nice thing about Crime Stoppers is Crime Stoppers pays rewards up to $1,000 for tips that lead to arrests for crimes. So strongly encourage people to use the Crime Stoppers number, which is 333-6771. 333-6771.
Again, I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. And again, the Improvement Committee meets the second Tuesday of each month here. The agendas are posted on the city's website, so you're always welcome to attend. This gang issue is probably something that we'll be following up on periodically as I keep the Improvement Committee updated. But again, we've had other forums, homeless forums, where the Improvement Committee really wants to focus on providing the venue for good community discussion on topics that are of concern to the community. So if you have any suggestions or issues that you'd like to have brought forward, again, don't hesitate to come out and join us. This is really your committee.
We'll listen to anything you have to say.